Listen, I just want to share a word of grace with you. As I was praying after I saw the exhibit for the first time today, I walked in at 10 a.m. After years of looking at this project on paper and explaining it to others, but today, in my own 2 feet, with my own eyes, I walked through that exhibit, I gazed upon those images, and I was blown away. It's so good. It is so beautiful, and it just warms my heart to know of the many multitudes that will flood through this exhibit and receive Christ. And these are the words that I want to share with you. The words of a pope. I wonder how many might know this, but in 1973, on November 23rd, the Shroud was on TV, and it was Pope Paul VI who had this to say. 52 years ago, mind you. I believe he would be smiling down upon us right now as we inaugurate this brand new exhibit. Because listen to his words. On the evening of November 23rd, 1973, for the first time in history, the exposition of the Holy Shroud broadcast on television channel for the first time. And he writes this. I'm going to scroll down to the part that speaks to me the most. He says, quote, "Whatever the historical and scientific judgment that gifted scholars might want to express about this extraordinary and mysterious relic, we cannot avoid avowing that it effectively leads visitors not only to an absorbed, sensible observation of the exterior and mortal features of the marvelous figure of the Savior, but it can also introduce them to a more penetrating vision of his profound and fascinating mystery." Did you notice how the Pope equated the man of the Shroud with the Savior in that sentence? He goes on to say this, and it's today's gospel. As I opened the missal today and I celebrated Mass, in gratitude for all that has been sweated over and contemplated and now comes to fruition, to see that Zacchaeus appears in the gospel today, this was the starting point of a spiritual reflection of Pope Paul VI, the day the Shroud was first on TV. And he says this: "We think of the anxious desire that the presence of Jesus in the gospel aroused to see him, more out of curiosity, more for attraction, more by attraction." I'm translating from the Italian. Thus, Zacchaeus, who, as the evangelist Luke recalls, quote, sought to see Jesus. Luke chapter 19 and verse 3. Thus, the Greeks who arrived in Jerusalem precisely at the moment of the messianic manifestation called Palm Sunday, who turned to the Apostle Philip asking, "We wish to see Jesus." This is where the Pope is going to spend some time in the discourse. The deepest desire of the human heart is to gaze upon Christ himself. In fact, our introductory song today, I love this, I wrote it down. I want to see the brightness of God. I want to see you, Jesus. That sums it all up. The desire of the human heart is to see God. Beatific vision is nothing less than this: a face-to-face vision with God himself. That desire is written on the human heart. And the Pope is saying everybody has this desire. Look how, with what beautiful words he describes it. To see Jesus. We think of the tortured and disfigured face of the suffering Christ, as the prophet Isaiah describes it to us. Quote, "He has no beauty, no splendor. We have seen him, and he had no appearance. The least of men, the man of sorrows. We considered him as a leper." And yet, though Isaiah 53 describes him as a suffering servant, the Holy Father goes on to quote Psalm 44, "The fairest of the sons of men." This juxtaposition of the Jesus who is tortured, and the Jesus who is the most beautiful manifestation of divine love that the world has ever known. Do you know what warms my heart going through that exhibit? Is that finally someone has had the good sense to realize that the Jesus story, the story that we were all made to live in and to live out, was deserving of an excellent presentation, a world-class presentation, as was said earlier today. How many people have assumed that our efforts at evangelization needed to be with a shoestring budget, with something so simple as, I don't know, when I went to school, it was coloring books. I lament to think about the ways in which I was educated in the faith when I was just a boy. I wish when I was younger, I had something like this. I wish that I had my friends to invite to something like this, because this is what we're made for, to see God, to see him in Jesus, crucified and risen. And so the Pope goes on to say this: yes, we think back to the blessed face, which in the night of the transfiguration on the mountain dazzles the astounded eyes of the three disciples in an unforgettable appearance, almost esoteric, theological, which Jesus opens up for them. But which then, at the Last Supper, when one with naive transport asks him to show him the invisible and ineffable Father, declares, quote, "Whoever sees me, sees the Father." The Holy Father is suggesting that when you look at the glorified and transfigured face of Jesus, that is the means by which God himself shows his face to his people. This is why these images, which select some of these same scenes, the transfiguration, manifest so beautifully in the exhibit. The luminous face of Jesus, I love this. What is this, in room 3, I believe, is where it's in more than one place now that I think about it. I think it's in room 1 as well. The transfigured face of Jesus, it's not just his body that is luminous. What's the next breath that Matthew and Mark and Luke all describe? His garments, his robes shine like the sun. His face is radiant as the sun, but his garments are white as light. It's not just the body of Jesus, but even the clothes that are in communion with him. And that is a preparation for the glory of the resurrection, when Jesus, risen from the dead, does not just glorify his body, but the linen cloth that surrounds it. And that is the means, the vehicle by which his divinity is on display through sacramental signs. Whoever sees me sees the Father. The Pope goes on to say this: so then, what fortune, what mystery to see Jesus, him, truly him, but for us, distant in time and space. Is this beatitude denied? Think about that. Are we second-rate Christians just because we happen to be born in the 20th or 21st century? Just because we happen to live in California instead of Capernaum? Is the God of the universe, who came down and took flesh and shared his voice and his knowledge and his healing touch, only privileging a select few? Or is it more likely that he left a visible sign to all of us in every place, in every time, so that we might enjoy his presence, a picture of himself? I think the Holy Father is right. What fortune, what mystery, if we should see him. How can we, the Holy Father goes on to say, how can we too fix our gaze on that human face which in him shines forth as Son of God and Son of Man? Are we perhaps also like the travelers on the road to Emmaus, with clouded eyes, who did not recognize the risen Jesus in the pilgrim who accompanied them? We have these powerful images also in room 3. Cleopas, and the other disciple who walk on the road. But they see him where? In the breaking of the bread. Their eyes are opened in the fractio panis, in the Eucharistic celebration. And this too is the end point of the exhibit. I cannot tell you how much I'm in love with this idea. In room 1, we start with Jesus who is born and then moves through his public ministry, but it climaxes in his death. Segue into room 2, the tomb, and there you segue into the passion, the death, the burial of Jesus. And yet we all know that the shadows don't have the last word. The one who dies is risen. The one who's risen remains. How does he remain? In the Eucharist. And this too is the climactic endpoint of the museum. I have to pull out my necklaces because they symbolize this simple truth. I use this as a teaching device. Yes, as a teacher, I've got props, right? So in my wallet, by the way, I have a replica of the shroud. It's the size of a quarter. Yes, you need one too. But I'm wearing a crucifix. There's a blessed that is quoted in the museum. He says this: "The cross received Jesus alive and handed him over dead. But the shroud received him dead and handed him over alive." This we must hold together. The cross and the shroud. But that shroud wrapped round a dead body and was laid on a slab of stone. A slab of stone which you can visit to this day in Jerusalem. Where? In a church. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And if you go to that slab of stone, what will you see? A tomb? A cadaver? Hardly. That slab of stone today serves as a table, as an altar, and it is robed in a white linen. That white linen is not closed up on a dead body. It's unfurled. And from that open tablecloth, what do you receive? Bread from heaven. The Lord of life and history has not gone up and away in his ascension. He's remained with us in the Eucharist. And this is my second necklace, the medal of the Holy Face. Pope Benedict XVI beatified Blessed Maria Pierina, who had apparitions of Jesus, who said to mint a medal of the Holy Face. What image, I wonder, did the Church deem appropriate to put on that medal? The medal of the Holy Face? It's an image of the man of the shroud. This is the Church's reading. What is on the other side of the medal? A cadaver? No. A man who sleeps? No. That is the one side. Heads, if you like. What's on tails? The Eucharist. The living, glorified, divinized humanity of Jesus that remains with us always as he promised. I am with you always to the end of the age. Do you see how it's in the fractio panis, the breaking of the bread, that the disciples' eyes are opened. Their hearts are burning because the word that was broken open now gives way to the presence of a person who just happens to be divine. And divinity cannot be perceived by natural organs. It needs supernatural faith. And this is the power, I believe, of this museum, which is not merely an exposition of science. It's not merely an art historical display, but it's a presentation of the divine Messiah who makes himself known, who makes his presence felt sacramentally. Christ on the cross, a cadaver wrapped in a linen, a Eucharistic presence. These are the three things we need to hold together. the cross, the shroud, and the Eucharist. God bless you. God bless the efforts of this beautiful museum. May it bear fruit 100-fold. Thank you all for your faith, your generosity, your hard work that made it all possible. May God prosper the work of your hands. God bless you.